So the Leafs versus the Lightning. These two are always fun to watch, especially with their playoff history. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Ryan from Seaway Sports Lounge, and welcome to another episode of Leafs Timeout. In this episode, I'm going to be going over what happened between the Lightning and the Leafs. This is the second game of a 5-game road trip for Toronto. They hoped for a better outcome this game compared to what happened in Florida. Certainly went well near the end, but if you watch the game prior to the third, it didn't look that way, but ended up working in their favor. I'm going to go over, of course, the scores. I'm going to go over the style of play that went on and the takeaways that I saw, and maybe where Toronto's heading next. So with that, let's just get right into it. So the Leafs won 4-3. This was a big win. This is something they needed to help them shake out of this 2-game rut they've been in. Anyway, they ended up getting this done. It was a surprising ending, but that's just how it goes in the NHL. It'll change on a dime. You know, you think you're down and out, and that the other team has total control, and then one nice goal goes in, and then completely changes everything. That's what happened here. But in the first, Toronto actually scored first for the first time in the entire season so far in this young season. The last number of games, they've always been behind. This time they're ahead. William Nylander, who, by the way, is playing a fantastic season so far, factor in every game, always on the score sheet in some form, whether it's an assist or a goal. He's just being dynamite out there, and it's so fun to watch him. He ended up getting the goal, and Matthew Knies and Tavares ended up getting the assists. We all thought things looked good. That's a different change. Well, not so much. The team started to unravel not long after. The Lightning ended up getting 3 quick goals, 3 unanswered goals, which made Sheldon Keefe make a major decision. He actually pulled Samsonov after the third goal. He didn't look very good anyway. There were some defensive breakdowns with the other two, but the third goal was just not, he didn't look like he was there. So they pulled him and brought Joseph Woll in, thinking, you know what, change the goalie, maybe it'll stabilize the game, and it certainly did. That decision was the proper one because the whole team just rallied around that change and made a big difference. Nikita Kucherov was a factor in all 3 of those goals. He actually scored 2 of them, and Alex Barré-Boulet, he got his first, and he had a primary assist on Boulet's goal. Kucherov was all over the ice in the first. He was dominant. He was dangerous no matter what happened. Tampa looked really good in the first, but Toronto ended up getting more shots. According to TSN here, they had 17 shots to Tampa's 9. However, Samsonov let 3 goals in on 4 shots, so they had to make the change. So when he stepped in, he's, like I said, he stabilized the game, dominant. It was really good. He had a lot of great plays against him, and he was just there. He looked ready to play, even though he came in cold. But this is the way it is. These guys have to be ready on a dime because you never know what's going to happen, right? First period closed out. And then second period, there were no goals scored on either team. It looked bleak. And what I mean by bleak is that, you know, Toronto got 10 shots in that second period and Tampa had 12. However, when I watched the game, I just didn't find they weren't electrifying. They were there, but they weren't dominant in the way that we're used to. And it just seemed like both teams basically held. They didn't really go after the other team too much. But anyway, they ended up it was no goals, and it was still 3-1 going into the third. So I thought, okay, well, maybe they can do something in the third, but it didn't look like they were that interested in getting going. Well, boy, I was wrong. That didn't happen. The third period completely changed. Now, the first half, to be fair, was a little slower than I thought. I thought maybe they'd be a little more dominant. Then they really became dominant. Toronto turned on the Jets. They ended up getting 20 shots in that period. But the third line, which was actually chatted about on the broadcast, about hoping, like they were talking about Domi struggling, like we said in the previous video, he hadn't found a line that worked. Well, it actually happened pretty quick. 12 minutes and 11 seconds in the third, that line ignited for a goal. Knies had a beauty of a shot. It came from Domi. 2.5 minutes later, Knies got a second goal right away. Same line, right from Domi and Kampf on that one. So Toronto tied the game, completely changed everything. It was unbelievable how fast it turned. But again, that's how the NHL works now. It could be, 2 minutes and you have 3 goals. They did that, and this is what they needed. They needed Knies and they needed Domi to get going. I mean, I hope it can be sustained into the following games further on, but they need that secondary scoring, as it was mentioned in the previous video. Secondary scoring is something that must happen. You can't rely on Matthews and Nylander to do everything, and JT in that group. Nice to see both guys getting involved, and David Camp, of course. That put the game into overtime. Now, overtime came along. Toronto pretty much owned that overtime. They had the possession completely, pretty much the whole time. Tampa did have one sequence where they did come into Toronto's end, but that didn't last very long. But Toronto held the puck for pretty much the entire overtime. And 55 seconds left in OT, John Tavares got the goal from Nylander and Klingberg, and Toronto won the game 4-3. It was just a great sight to see. Just brought back a little bit of memory from whenever they won the season they won the game for the series. They won them in game 6. JT got the goal. It was a fantastic win. They got it done. They needed that 2 points. The bench looked relieved. They showed the picture, all the coaches shaking hands with big smiles on their face, just a gutsy performance. And that was what happened. And that's what they need. That's how it goes sometimes. You got to win those tough games, especially when you're down and out. At least that's what I see. So the takeaways: Joseph Woll, my opinion, was the first star. He ended up getting the game well in hand for the Leafs. He was being shot at quite often, a lot of point blank shots. He was there. Very difficult saves that were done. He ended up having 29 saves. He saved everything that he had. And like I said, he was cold, and he shut the door. So my opinion, number one guy. Another number one, well, number two, but really 1B, Matthew Nyes was great tonight. He was a factor in 3 of their 4 goals. He scored 2 of them, and he had an assist, very similar to Kucherov kind of idea. Domi had also 2 assists. That line, they got some production out of them, and that's what they need. It's going to help the team get that scoring balance they're looking for and take that pressure off those main guys. So in case they have an off night or a quieter night, at least then they have scoring coming in. The other takeaway is that Maple Leafs scored first for the first time this year. That is really important. That's good. Hopefully they can get that trend going. And of course, and as well, Nylander and JT are always contributing. Like I said earlier, they are dominant this year. Plus, they had 52 shots on net tonight. Overall, this game was an interesting one, to say the least. It like almost like watching 2 different games. Toronto down and out early. Tampa looked like they were taking control. Tampa sat in general, held the game, but they didn't really. They got the goaltending from Woll to take care of it. And then Toronto came back and took the game over and won the game in the end. So that's basically what happened here. They are playing the Washington Capitals next game, so that's good. That's who they're going to be facing next. Capitals are not doing super well this year, so hopefully they can translate that for a win. Hopefully these changes will keep going with third line continuing to get better. We'll have to see how the goaltending works. That's going to be a big question mark right now. Of course, the media is going to make a big question mark about it, and it rightfully so, because is the number one. But right now, he hasn't been playing very well. He's had a tough time. Now it's only 1 game with Woll. He played really well today. I'm curious to see if Keefe will obviously he'll probably give him the next start, just to see if they can maybe string a few starts together while Samsonov gets everything in order. So could create a goalie battle. We'll see what happens. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you like what you saw here. Please hit the like or subscribe if you want to join in with what we talk about. Obviously, there's the Canadians Corners, Leafs Timeout, and of course, I give NHL news. That's another thing I like to do. If you wish to do that, please hit the notification bell, so that way you can get further updates when we make new videos. So with that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Talk soon.